Welcome to TradePort Corridor Topics, where global logistics development partners will bring together the best minds from an array of business sectors and government to discuss the development of a new model for improving supply chain efficiency. With partners, a transformative logistics platform is being developed that will modernize how goods move through today's supply chains. Growing cargo volumes across North America are driving demand for stronger connections between seaports, inland distribution hubs, and end markets. The North American TradePort Corridor System is a new purpose-built logistics system, establishing a coordinated network of TradePort hubs that integrates logistics assets with cargo management operations and investment districts. Each TradePort hub functions as an integrated inland port that connects load center seaports with inland rail, truck, and air cargo. Introducing the TradePort Corridor System, a multimodal logistics platform transforming how freight moves in North America.
Hello, I'm Adam Wasserman with Global Logistics Development Partners, and I'm here with my colleague, our COO, Lois Yates.
Hi, everybody.
Also from Global Logistics Development Partners. We are here to talk to you about the North American TradePort Corridor System. A little bit about GLD Partners for your context. Who are we? Who are we talking to? We were formed in 2009. We're a US-based company. Headquarters is in Arizona. We have offices in Los Angeles, New York, and Washington, D.C. Over the last 16 or 17 years, we've worked on a variety of projects through North America and also in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Our company today is shaped in three sections. There's three divisions. There's GLD Partners, which a lot of people have known us by from the start of our origins of our company. That part of our company works on project planning and advisory to companies and to airports and seaports and projects like that around the world. TradePort Development Corporation we have formed to particularly develop the TradePort system, and that's what we're talking to you about. So its responsibility is TradePort delivery and the project finance of that. It's a rather heavy-duty project. And then GLD Partners Logistics Technology, and that's the division that is focused on supply chain optimization for the TradePort and otherwise, but it's the use of technology around cargo data management and automation. So we envision tomorrow's logistics system, and that's the way we've built our company. We have senior expertise in our team in supply chain management, in ports and rail management, putting together joint ventures and pretty complex project financial structures, in automation and cargo data technology, land development and project planning, physical site planning. We're in Washington working on public policy and in other capitals, and clean energy. We have an interest to build a clean energy infrastructure alongside a logistics infrastructure as the technology and the market adoption occurs. So as GLD Partners, LLC, Global Logistics Development Partners, that really breaks down to what do we do? We corporate supply chain strategy, a little bit more detail. We have worked in the sectors that are on the left side of your screen, working for companies in automotive, electronics, pharma, manufacturing of industrial equipment, food production, logistics, aerospace, e-commerce, and distribution. Those are spaces that we've worked directly in those industries, those verticals, advising those companies, designing and architecting supply chain systems, strategy, network planning, and optimization. In the yellow, in the logistics districts, that's what GLD Partners has worked on over the last 15 years, 16, 17 years. And we've worked on projects with and for others at logistics hubs in the US and Canada, in a lot of states, and in various provinces in Canada, and then in 9 countries in other parts of the world, as I've described. In terms of the TradePort corridor, we are now simultaneously developing over the next 10 to 15 years the TradePort corridor system, which is a rather complex system of logistics hubs, ports, along key corridors on your screen, the Interstate 40, the Interstate 10 and 80 in the United States, as well as corridors within California and corridors extending into Mexico. We do stretch our corridor system into Canada as well.
Adam?
So what is the North America corridor system? Lois?
I just wanted to add, I thought it'd be great to add to the previous slide that you had up, that our experience in working with companies and working on supply chain strategies for companies and working on the asset facilities like airports and seaports, all the experiences that we had in working with those different entities really created the knowledge that we've put together to create our TradePort corridor system. It's really based on real world experiences that we've had in working with our clients in other sectors of our business.
It's an important point, Lois. We talk about the secret sauce, our business, our intelligence of our experience in what's happened in the past, but also our research team and understanding what's happening currently in those sectors, in the verticals, and what we project to happen. And that's the fundamental foundation. That is the foundation of the TradePort system.
Yes. I'm going to talk a little bit about the commercial objectives that we have in our TradePort corridor system. We have the advantage of being able to start with a clean sheet design. We can do this from scratch, so we can take all these experiences that we've had, put them together, and come out with the most efficient logistics system in the world. We have the basics of the basis of this system is really the objectives to have a really efficient supply chain. And we think that we can show efficiency improvement in these supply chains, both in manufacturing and in logistics operations. There are two critical different parts, but we think we can show efficiency in all those operations. And efficiency to us consists of lowering cargo transit times, we're lowering transportation costs. Most importantly, we're going to be able to improve reliability. We're going to be able to increase the choice and the options of shippers have on how to ship their goods. And very, very importantly is the safety of not only shipping those goods, but on the of the truckers and the logistics providers moving on our highways.
So the TradePort system stretches across the United States and into Canada and Mexico. And on the map that you're looking at, it shows a series of corridors in different colors. So in green, the lower tier of the United States is the Interstate 10 rail corridor that stretches from Los Angeles and the seaports complex there across the southern part of Arizona, New Mexico, and into Texas, and then the tributaries that it serves into Texas and Dallas, and then up through the southern part of the United States. In the blue, that's the Interstate 40 corridor, again extending from the seaports complex in Southern California, getting to Oklahoma, and then it spiders out and starts to support tributary and key markets in the Midwest, in the South, and in the East. So a very important, busiest freight corridor in the United States. In the pink, that's New York to the West Coast. Key is connecting in through Chicago along the Interstate 80/rail corridor system there. So that's when we start to see the TradePort system cover the United States, stretching into Canada, into Ontario, through Detroit, and then stretching into, for supply chain support, into Mexico, into key markets and the manufacturing hubs in Mexico. So as we think about how we develop these, if you think of the Southern California seaports as an element, I should say that we're building this system to support international cargo that moves in and out of North America, but also for domestic cargo that's moving, let's say, within the continental system. So we're going to focus on seaports to an extent for international cargo, but the TradePort system is not solely focused on international cargo. So we think about rolling out. We can't develop everything at once, but we are developing on a rapid pace schedule. What's in green are TradePort hubs that we're calling our first phase. So it's the hubs that extend from California from Southern California into California and Northern California into Arizona, into Texas, in Colorado, Oklahoma. And even in the first phase, we're extending all the way into the Ohio Valley, into Louisville, Cincinnati. As we think about the second phase rollout, we start to think of 4 key, what we're referring to as super hubs, super trade ports. And those are in the New York market, probably in Eastern Pennsylvania, in Chicago, also in Memphis, and in Atlanta. And so we start to think of those super hubs, which have a unique and critical function to our system, their connectivity to consumption and production markets throughout the entire US East, which is fundamentally important because of the density of manufacturing and population and consumption, but also to reach key East Coast seaports, particularly Savannah and New York. Lois?
Yeah, we're talking about these super hubs, and Adam, you gave a great definition of it because I think it's important for people to understand that these hubs were chosen with great precision, and they were chosen for what value they can, what critical value they can bring into our network function and how the network does function. The domestic and international hyper multimodal connectivity in each one of these areas at the bottom is critically important. As you talked about, the goods coming into the country, the goods coming all the way through the country, these cities are critically important to the way our network works. So we're looking at global origin and destination points, and we're looking at the throughput cargo hubs. So for instance, if goods are coming through the port of Los Angeles and Long Beach, and as they move across the United States, Chicago ends up being at that other end of the barbell where a lot of those goods are moving directly to Chicago, and then they're distributed throughout the Midwest from that point. So these are national trade port network gateways. Each one serves a different function. We think about Memphis. We know that FedEx is there. We know that the massive amount of goods that are moving through there. Atlanta has the largest, busiest airport in the world, has more passengers than any other airport in the world. And Chicago, I just mentioned, and then New York is between the port and the airport, the amount of goods that are coming in and out of those systems. The catchment area for the Port of New York is massive with their consumer population. So these super hubs are critically important to the way our network is going to be able to operate. Another part of our main story to the system is what is the TradePort premium? We think that if a company locates or operates in one of our trade ports, there is definitely a premium that they can benefit from. We think that we are providing a strategic network of sites. You saw the map, you see how we go all the way across the country when the system is intact. Every one of these trade ports will be connected to one another and they will form a network which covers the whole country. The infrastructure is going to be modern and current, where no one is going to be having to accept an old legacy infrastructure. It's all going to be brand new, and it's going to be purpose-built to fit our network system. Our logistics services and terminals are going to provide the value-added activities that our companies will need in moving their goods across the country. And we think that technology and a technology platform can add an extra service for our companies to perhaps give them a competitive advantage on their operations in the United States.
Let's look at what a trade port hub is. We've talked about the system. We've shown you the map and the corridors. Everywhere there was a triangle on that map, there's going to be a trade port hub. That trade port hub will look a little different in each market and will be sized a little differently, but there'll be a lot of commonality. Each of the hubs will have two components. One will be shown in conceptually, right? In green, logistics core zone. We're going to refer to that as the LCZ, but it's really the port. It's a new definition port. It's not an inland port that might be sort of understood as an inland port today. The train stops, unloads cargo and containers and trucks take that cargo away. This is a port that has multiple terminals, multiple functions, multiple logistics services, and so on. So we're building a port complex in the middle of the trade port in green, and then around that is a demand concentration and investment district of companies that will locate on that site, because it's modern infrastructure, it's a competitive location, but it's integrally connected to that LCZ, that port complex. And that LCZ, that port, is connected to a network, as Lois was describing, of trade ports throughout the United States into Canada and Mexico. So those companies are enjoying direct access to their port, and the connectivity to ports all over North America. The trade ports will be fairly large. They'll be 1,500 acres to 5,000 acres in size, accommodating a small port in the middle, right? Several, 50 to 200 acres in size, but then land for manufacturing facilities and distribution. They'll be on strategic corridor locations. They'll all have interstate highway connectivity in the US, and similar in Mexico and Canada. They'll all have rail connectivity. Some will have rail to the site. They will all have rail nearby. We believe there'll be intermodal assets on several trade port locations, but not in all. They'll all have rail access. They will all have air cargo access, as shown by that airplane icon on the screen, nearby, maybe adjacent to the trade port. In some locations, and we'll describe this in a moment, the trade port itself will be located inside an airport. Airport would have to have multimodal connectivity and to infrastructure, rail and highway infrastructure, et cetera. And then they will be connectors, feeders for cargo moving in and out of major load center seaports. So that's what we see as a trade port hub, 1,500 to 5,000 acres with a port complex and a demand center around it. That infrastructure that connects the investment district to the LCZ is purpose planned. Trucks won't have to drive out on public roads. There will be automation introduced, a lot of connectivity and technology that sort of connects that, so that we believe these would be the first purpose-planned logistics investment districts like these anywhere. And the market has reacted quite positively so far on that. Now, we're also thinking about this in a little bit more detail, and we're developing with our partners the infrastructure, the services, and the investment that will be happening in both the logistics core zone and the investment district. So in the LCZ, we see a series of terminals that will be operated by partners of ours, where we're involved in logistics operations where cargo is being moved in and out. Hundreds of companies are moving in and out of each LCZ daily. So there will be temperature-controlled facilities for food, for pharmaceuticals, for electronics, specialty assets for specialty cargo that's moving in and out. There will be drayage. Several of these trade ports will be drayage terminus. So locations where cargo is being moved from, let's say, a seaport directly to the trade port with a terminal for that cargo to be way stationed and held there or moved onward into the system. If it's moved onward, it will be transloaded. In some cases, there'll be cross-docking facilities where cargo is moving in on a truck and then moving out in 5 different directions to support a particular company's inventory management or supply chain system. Equipment management will be an important part of the LCZ. assuring that empty containers are deployed where they can be shipped back to the seaport, or most importantly, with high intention to fill those, because we're creating a return flow of cargo from the manufacturing that's occurring and otherwise at inside the trade port and in that region. So an important element of the LCZ is equipment management, chassis, containers, and so on. Now, lastly, in the blue box, it says multi-user and short-term warehouse. We see a whole variety of shippers using facilities where they're moving cargo through, they're holding that cargo, they're splitting it up, they're providing nimble locations for companies that are needing that flexibility to move cargo, to hold cargo, to ship it through, to move it where it needs to go. In the investment district, the larger area of the trade port, it really comes down to, we see distribution of various sorts and production, manufacturing. The distribution, largely it'll be around consumer goods, a lot of inbound to the US or the North American market, coming out of Asia, some coming out of other parts of the world, certainly coming out of Mexico as well. And then for distribution into consumption markets throughout North America. It also, importantly, and sometimes not understood as well, is the industrial supply chain distribution. So supporting either cargo that's moving domestically or internationally, but moving into the industrial supply chain world. So into factory production or replenishing industrial facilities. On the production side, and that's for the way we would describe manufacturing, from as it's listed here as examples, automotive to precision instruments. The trade ports will be located in places that will be customized for bespoke strategy and logistics support for different kinds of industry. So the map that we showed you with the trade port system and the corridors and all those triangles, underneath for us on that map are several dozen layers of data of cargo movement, transport, logistics flow, where essentially every manufacturing operation in the US, Canada, and Mexico is. The major key logistics hubs, the flow of that cargo, where it's increasing, where we're projecting it will increase because what's happening in the supply chain verticals. So we think we have a lot of intelligence of what exists, what's going to exist by industry, by vertical, and we can sit with the pharma, the automotive, the aerospace industry, and others and say, look, we understand your supply chain. We think we can provide an asset, a service, a location that is supportive of your future supply chain as it evolves. We think the trade port system can play a very important role for some key industries. Lois?
Yeah, and I think we mentioned before, we have the opportunity to be able to be located in some high opportunity markets that have some airports, that we're going to be able to have an operation on the airport and then another trade port hub within the catchment area that will support that on the airport specialty hub. So what we would see happening is, like, take for instance, if we have something at Atlanta, if we look at the catchment area for the airport in Atlanta, it actually can cover 3 or 4 of our trade ports as you go northeast, south, and west. So these trade ports can they can take in the air cargo, prepare it for shipment, for air shipment, go through the process that air cargo has to go through, where it goes through customs, it goes through TSA, all the different things that have to happen to a piece of air cargo before it gets on an airplane. All that's done at our trade port hubs, that it's put in a bonded truck and it's moved to the airport. It's moved through our small specialty facility on the airport, and it's moved directly to either the belly, the freighter, or the passenger plane with the belly, or even to the integrator. So we have 3 different areas that we would be delivering those goods to. So we think that the air cargo system can benefit from our feeder system of trade ports. Merchandise can be prepared, ready for shipment. It can cut down on the traffic at the airport, cut down on the congestion, and the air cargo can move more rapidly and in a more efficient manner.
So just to reinforce, there'll be a network of trade port hubs. Several of those we think in high opportunity situations can be on airport trade ports, and several others will be these sort of twin project where we've got two products, the trade port hub that's in that metro region, supported by a specialty air cargo complex. Lois just described a whole fairly complex feeder system for processing and feeding into key airports. So we're pretty excited about the air cargo, the high velocity, high volume, high value cargo, and the trade port system supporting that. Okay.
Yes.
In terms, go ahead.
Go ahead, Adam. You could talk.
So as we think about the future, we're building a commercially viable logistics system. In other words, it's what industry needs. It's creating value through that premium by creating efficiencies. And that project essentially sits as a commercial project. At the same time, we're thinking of how we future-proof not only the network and the system, but its function as it goes forward. So we're supporting this with a lot of current investment in technology around cargo data management and automation. But we're also thinking in the future about clean energy. So we know that there will be some evolution in cargo movement and propulsion systems around particularly hydrogen electric trucks that we used in different situations. And the trade port system will have an interest as the market evolves to support that and to be part of a national continental spine for supporting the infrastructure for those trucks to get access to that hydrogen and electric power. So as we think about the project, in some national and international journals has gotten some recognition. The examples we're putting up here are some of the recognition that was paid to the project component in California. It's the TradePort. They talk about easing, the interface between seaports and inland markets. The Lodestar in the UK referred to it as a blueprint for a re-engineered US supply chain. The American Journal of Transportation talks about, the project, again, sort of connecting with ports and relieving port congestion. So we're excited about the reception the project has received from industry, from the market, from the press, and there's more to that. In terms of delivery, Lois, do you want to pick it up?
Yeah, I think an important thing, I think that the one thing that when we've been sharing with you today, it is a very complex system. And our company is developing this system, but we couldn't do it without the partners that we have. So we have our TradePort Development Corporation that is developing this, but the input from the consortium that we put together, and you can see on the screen the different kinds of firms that are a member of this consortium. Their information and the sharing that they've been giving us is so valuable to give us the insight to be able to produce a product that is going to be helpful to the companies in operating in the future. So these private sector companies are at our side and are giving us information to help make this system develop in the manner which is going to be most usable for our users. So we have manufacturing firms, we've talked about them, we have truck fleet operators, we have the railroads, we have ocean carriers, we have truck OEMs, we have the investors. Adam has talked about the technology and mobility companies that are inputting information to allow us to develop the system. And a very important component, obviously, is the logistics management companies, and they are a critical part of our consortium. But also the public sector is an important part of it. We've talked about our U.S. government. We've talked about seaport and airport authorities and the input that they're giving us, and local and state governments are at our side so that we can produce a product that is going to allow this supply chain system in the United States, North America, Canada, Mexico operate in its most efficient manner.
So in those blue boxes, it said U.S. government, and the U.S. government has been involved in the TradePort project from the very beginning. They've been supportive of it from multiple, federal administrations. The project has been sort of described as a project of national importance. The U.S. Department of Transportation recognized the project as sort of a national public-private partnership case study because of the private investment that's being put into the project, but there's a public purpose because there's a public policy and objectives in the project from a U.S. DOT perspective, actually from a commerce perspective, and the Department of Energy. We're helping streamline cargo movement, and there's a public policy advantage that the federal government has been quite attracted to through the U.S. Department of Transportation. They've committed investments for project planning, for engineering, for the early projects, for technology development, and honestly, we couldn't ask for more enthusiasm, partnership, and support from the federal government as the National Freight Plan has come forward. First time that we've had a National Freight Plan, we can see the TradePort system as part of the national objectives, and working with DOT and others in Washington, but DOT at the highest levels has been quite helpful. At the same time, we're thinking about future investments that the federal government will be asked to make. Again, I said this is a commercial project, and it is a commercial project with public investment in specific catalytic areas that help reinforce for our private investors the value of the project, that it is a nationally important project, provides some comfort on the private side. So we see some investment happening in construction in the future. We have a team in Washington that's working on policy and investment and legislation with members of Congress, with congressional committees, and with staff at the key agencies, particularly to transportation. Where are we at in terms of delivery? Where does this project stand? Well, about $800 million has been committed so far in investment to the project. We can't build these things, these large scale projects, without places to do that. So we're starting the first phases of sites in a variety of locations. Over 4,000 acres has been made to be under control, that we control so far. So we have places to develop and engineer and build, and we are working on the next wave and next phase of projects right now. So for phase one, planning, that's site planning and site civil engineering, is underway. Construction is expected in 2027. So next year, our focus is to start building the logistics core zone, or the port portions of the project, so that the investment districts can start to take shape. We've actually had companies or prospects come and say, I might want to build a facility, of a manufacturing facility or a temperature controlled complex. And so we're excited about the TradePort's ability to support growth and investment in these areas. The phase two locations, the super hubs, we are working on site identification right now. We are starting the discussions on sites. We intend to have sites under control soon. We would say that the phase two sites are behind the phase one TradePorts by about 12 months. And so we don't see them as a distant second phase. We see them as a close following second phase, with announcements expected to be made throughout the rest of this year, and for us to start construction of those super hubs in 2028. Now, we're working on terminal partnerships right now. So those are companies that would be involved in operating terminal complexes in the logistics core zones, in the port portion of the projects. And so we're working with companies that are, involved in terminal operations and temperature controlled facilities, and the companies involved in generally described as third party logistics firms. But we are well into that, and we will continue that with other investors and partners as we go. But we expect announcements on our first partnerships this year. So on the word partnership, in the blue box, we've talked, I just mentioned that, logistics asset managers, logistics service providers, terminal operators. We're well into those conversations, and we will continue to expand that web and are seeking conversations with other firms that will see value to operate facilities in our facility. Now, one important thing to mention is that our organization is going to operate this network as a system, as a port system. And in that regard, we will be promoting the system, navigating these supply chains, developing commercial interests. So we will be bringing investment together with our partners for companies that are using the logistics core zone and become clients of our logistics partners at the logistics core zone. At the same time, we're working with logistics providers, folks moving cargo around, and that's major national truck fleets, large, important regional truck fleets, railroads, interfacing between our ports as the ocean carriers and moving containers through our system out of the ports, and air carriers as we focus on airport element of these projects. In green, for obvious reasons, is the lifeblood of how to make all this happen. So we're working with investors that have made some commitments and are now making additional commitments as the project moves forward in industrial infrastructure, in logistics assets, and frankly, also on the technology side. That will come a little bit later. We've secured our initial investment in technology, and we'll be raising additional funds for that. But otherwise, these projects are investment heavy to build. We're not building industrial parks, but we're building industrial complexes that will have an industrial park-like feel, but they're purpose-planned logistics hubs that are interconnected with our seaport system. And that's why we're building the logistics core zone and the infrastructure that supports that. So that's the TradePort system, and Lois and I thank you for your time. We are anxious to hear your thoughts, your inquiries. We'd like to develop relationships with companies across the board, and we invite you to contact us at the email addresses that you see on your screen. Thank you again.
Thank you.